The Texans have got to stop these three Ravens from affecting the game if they want to win on Saturday. Welcome into the channel. I'm Cody Stoots. Let's talk some Texans and Ravens. The divisional round of the NFL playoffs is here, and the Texans are headed to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. 3:30 Saturday afternoon is when things get going, and this one is a huge one. Three players on the Ravens that can't have a big day if the Texans plan on winning this game. Now, this is not going to be the obvious ones because I could sit here and tell you, look, stop Lamar Jackson and the Texans win. Like, stop Patrick Queen or Roquan Smith and the Texans win. Those players obviously are really important players to this matchup. If Lamar Jackson goes supernova, the Texans may not have enough to beat him. If Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen absolutely dominate this thing from a defensive perspective, from that linebacker spot, sure, the Texans may not have a chance to beat the Ravens. But I don't believe you can stop those players from affecting the game for four quarters. I believe you can really just kind of contain them for most of those four quarters. There are three really important players on the Ravens that I feel like you need to flat out try to stop if you're the Texans. And if those players get going, if those players are having a big day, the Texans might have no shot. Two players on offense, one player on defense. Here's the first one. Running back Gus Edwards. Edwards is a bruiser, but he's got a lot of speed. He can run between the tackles. He can take things outside. They'll use him in tandem with some of the other running backs. Justice Hill is a guy that they'll use in the running back room as well. They've got Dalvin Cook on the roster now, does Baltimore. But Edwards is the guy that if he's got things going, if he's making things easy on the ground for the rushing attack, man, it becomes so difficult to stop Lamar Jackson and the execution of that passing game. Edwards can open up and make things easy, and all of a sudden, you're keying on Edwards, you're thinking he's getting the ball, and then Lamar Jackson scampering down the field for a big gain, or Lamar pulls it out of Edwards' belly, and then he's hitting one of his pass catchers down the field for a big play. You can't let Gus Edwards get going. So who's the Texan or Texans that need to be on their P's and Q's ready to stop Gus Edwards? To me, this one really comes down to the ends. Jonathan Grenard, Will Anderson, Derek Barnett, and whoever else is out there at the end spot, playing as much as they can through some of the nicks and dings of this portion of the year. You got to be able to stop Gus Edwards from the in spot. Maybe it's crashing into the pocket so that he doesn't get any extra yards. Maybe it's cleaning things up when the defensive tackles or the linebackers don't take care of business, but it's certainly keeping him from getting things outside in this matchup. If Gus Edwards is humming on the ground, the Ravens are going to have a much easier time hitting big plays against the Texans and ultimately beating the Texans. So player number one on the Ravens that the Texans need to worry about stopping, Gus Edwards, the running back, and the players to do it. I trust the defensive ends of the Texans with this job in trying to stop Gus Edwards. The second player also on offense, tight end Mark Andrews. Now, Andrews is coming off of the injured reserve. He practiced fully twice this week, so I expect him to play. I expect the official announcement to come down before game time, but big-time tight end Mark Andrews set to return for the Ravens. Has been banged up a lot this year, but that guy is as trusty a pass catcher as Lamar Jackson has ever had. And we know how the Texans have had trouble with tight ends over the course of this season. Heck, just look back to when the Browns played the Texans and how well David Njoku played. Now, this isn't full strength in rhythm, Mark Andrews. All the more reason to make sure that you're shutting down Mark Andrews and you're not letting some of that easy stuff, some of that comfortable safety blanket type stuff that Andrews can present take over for this offense and get Lamar out of a jam. Get him out of, hey, it's 2nd and 7. Uh-oh, there's Andrews for 6 yards, setting up a 3rd and short for this Ravens team. Hey, it's 3rd and 3. Oh, there's Andrews for 4 yards, setting up a new set of downs for Lamar Jackson and company. Mark Andrews is really good. He's been one of the better tight ends in football for the past few seasons. The injuries have really dug into his production this year, but when he has played, he's still been pretty darn effective compared to what his career averages are. And slowing down Andrews, well, there's a variety of guys that you have to trust. The linebackers have got to be ready to attack Mark Andrews, make it rough, get physical with him. But Desmond King and Steven Nelson, two guys that could end up with Andrews' duty. And I think back to Steven Nelson last week against David Njoku. It was 3rd and short, and Njoku catches a short pass from Joe Flacco, and Steven Nelson popped him, stopped him short of the first down, forced a 4th down. The Browns had to punt on that drive, and they basically never got anything going from that moment on, all because Steven Nelson was a sure tackler in that moment. Desmond King, he bounced back from the Colts game where he was a little roughed up by the Colts offense. In the Browns game, he looked a lot better. He's a guy that's been near the top in tackles. They trust him to do a lot of different things on that defense. So they've got to be ready for Mark Andrews and ready to attack the Ravens' big tight end. You can't have him when Flowers on the outside and maybe a healthy, ready to go full throttle Odell Beckham are getting going. You can't all of a sudden have the tight end having a bunch of success, getting some easy yards up the middle, or hitting an explosive play against the Texans. That would spell doom for the Texans if Mark Andrews got going to a large degree. Got to stop him. Got to slow him down. Got to make sure that he's not a huge factor like he has been so many times for this Ravens team. So a couple of players over on the Ravens offense that can't get going to add to their already guys that they depend on offense, like Lamar Jackson, like Zay Flowers outside. Can't let those guys get going as well. We talked about the defense, the 2 stud linebackers, Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith. They can do it all, man. They can cover, they can blitz, they can stop the run. They're nasty. They're supported by a pretty darn good defensive line. And one of those defensive linemen that is playing his absolute butt off at this point is a guy that they stick inside a lot. He made a play in the first matchup against the Texans, and he's made a tremendous amount of plays over the course of this season. Justin Madubuike. Madubuike is a load. Big, nasty, athletic guy that has gone in there since week 6. Since week 6, he's got 10.5 sacks from the interior of that defensive line. He is nasty. He can get tackles for a loss. He can push the pocket into C.J. Stroud's lap and make Stroud have to adjust or roll out. That's where some of those linebackers and defensive ends can get after C.J. Stroud. If Madubuike is going, then you are in trouble from an offensive standpoint. He can really disrupt what the Texans want to do, or not only running the football, but certainly what they can do in passing the ball with his pass rush prowess from the interior of that defensive line. He is a guy that you have got to slow down. I don't know if you can straight up stop him because he's been so darn good and he's playing some of his best football right now. But Shaq Mason, Michael Dieter, Juice Scruggs, the running backs coming up to support and help the offensive linemen. You've got to be ready for Madubuike, because if he gets going and helps take over for that Ravens defense, the Texans are going to be in a lot of trouble. That interior offensive line has been playing pretty darn well. They've sort of settled down. Juice Scruggs has gotten into a nice rhythm. Shaq Mason, some of the issues he had earlier in the season, those are gone. He's been a brick wall over there at right guard. And Michael Dieter, he's had some rough goes against big-time defensive tackles. He's got to be up for the challenge, and the Texans got to help him any way they can to take care of Madubuike and whatever else that Ravens defensive line will be throwing at this offensive line for the Texans. But you got to slow down Madubuike, and if you can slow him down, look, Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, they're still going to do their thing, okay? But if Madubuike gets going, it may spell doom for the Texans. Don't let him get going. So slow down those 3 Ravens, stop those 3 Ravens, and victory is going to be much, much easier to attain. It's not going to be easy overall, but it'll be damn near impossible if Gus Edwards, Mark Andrews, and Madubuike are rolling in this one. The Texans will have a tough hill to climb. Make that climb a little easier by keeping those 3 players for the Ravens from going off. What do you think? Is there a player I missed on the Ravens that the Texans got to be ready to stop, got to be ready to slow down in this matchup to make sure they can win just a little bit easier? Let me know in the comment section down below. On your way down in the comment section, throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. There's still so much to get ready for ahead of Saturday afternoon. You don't want to miss anything right here on the YouTube channel, and you don't want to miss anything over on Houston Football, www.houfootball.com. There's a link in the description down below. It's where I do all my writing about the Houston Texans. And, of course, when Saturday gets here, that's where the final thoughts and the score prediction for the matchup will be. That's free to all subscribers. Of course, paid subscribers get everything on the site. You don't want to miss out on that. Appreciate you watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. And I can't wait till we talk some more Texans playoffs again here soon.